Looks like Carolyn's there. Carlos is there. Great. We're looking good.
Hey, we're ready to go.
Okay.
These are also with monthly topics that are received from local health figures who are leading in that area. And then we have health and nutrition screenings that are performed biannually.
That's part of this, or
status.
No, that's Mayor Frost's American Fork line.
So
American Fork, can you mute your microphone, please? Thank you. And then
Okay.
Melanie, can you put the agenda up real quick just so we can see that? Thank you. Sorry, Mayor Miller.
no, that's fine. We'll get going on our meeting on March 4th, 2021 at 5:31 p.m. We have excused tonight Mayor Leifson and Mayor Wright. So, because I saw Frost and Fulmer joined. So I'll have those excused. We have no public comment, but we have action item 1, the approval of the February 4th, 2021 meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes from that meeting.
Okay, I have a first from Mayor Mann.
I'll second it. This is Julie Fulmer.
I have a second from Mayor Fulmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Like I said, there's no public comment that had been sent in. Action item, we have the Transportation Improvement Program TIP amendment. That's Bob's.
And Mayor Miller, we were hoping we could switch positions with 3 and 4 and take number 4 first, if that's okay with the chair.
That'll work.
Thank you. And Andrew Jackson, I believe you're going to lead this discussion, and we have some special guests with us tonight as well.
Yes, so we have Carolyn Gannott from UTA and Carlos Braceras from UDOT. I was on a meeting this morning with WFRC and some folks up there, and both Carolyn and Carlos gave a great introduction, summary, kind of next steps associated with House Bill 433. I think it's on its 4th substitute that passed, and it's kind of in this concurrence mode, dealing with infrastructure improvements and the one-time funding associated with that. And so I'd ask Carlos and Carolyn, and it doesn't matter which order you want to go in, if they would be happy to, if they could come to our meeting and just kind of fill us in like they did this morning. So I don't know if Carlos, if you went first this morning, do you want to go first again?
Let Caroline go first tonight.
Okay.
I was gonna let Carlos go first because he gives a bigger overview of it. So I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay.
Again. I think it worked well.
Okay.
Great,
Caroline.
thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to spend some time with you. It's been too long since I've attended a MAG meeting. So Andrew, thank you for the invitation. And I'm not sure what you heard this morning. I don't think it was all that good, but you were at least buttering me up here to see if I would if I would participate with you here today. So yeah, pretty remarkable journey. As I said this morning, the discussions really, what is now House Bill 433, the discussions really started in May of last year. And in May of last year, I think we were facing this dark hole. We didn't know any way out of it. We saw traffic going down. We saw the economy going down. We saw jobs getting lost. And so there was a lot of discussion around, do we maybe bond? Do we want to get more work out there to try to get jobs going? And so we've been in these conversations with legislative leadership for, it feels like forever over this issue. And it's nice to be kind of coming out the back end of this. And it's warmer out, it's light out later at night, and it's everything's feeling better. So where we ended up, and I think you're all probably aware of this, is what started really as a bonding bill ended up more as a one-time. It has a bonding component, but it ended up with some one-time money as well. The state ended up having the economy doing better than expected, so there was a lot of one-time money. And I always believe there's nothing better for one-time money than an infrastructure investment that doesn't really require those ongoing costs. There was a lot of back and forth in terms of where the project should come from. And I just want to emphasize how the legislature really respected the work of the local governments and the planning organizations. We have 4 MPOs around the state, and it's really the local governments that are involved in identifying what those project needs are. And almost exclusively, on the list for $705 million worth of projects that are identified, almost exclusively they came from that first phase of the long-range plan that you all worked on. The one project that was not on that long-range plan, if you have that list in front of you, is the East Science SR9 improvements, and it was a very unique opportunity for a public-private partnership to have a kind of another gateway entryway into Zion's Park on the east side. So that's on that list as well. You'll notice that there's no dollars associated with any of the projects on that list. It just shows $705 million for general fund earmark projects for this TIF program. So that money is going to go into the Transportation Investment Fund that's administered here at the department. And the Transportation Commission will have the responsibility of assigning dollar values to each one of these projects. And I'll talk a little bit about that process. So there was the one-time money, the $705 million of one-time money. There was the bonding that is for transit investments, and Carolyn will mention the one-time money for the front runner double tracking as well as the bonding. The state, our office here will work with the state. We'll issue the bonds and then pass that money through to UTA for the transit piece. But there's also the $35 million in active transportation, and those projects are going to come from the region, an effort that all the MPOs and the department and UTA working together came up with a regional active transportation plan. It's about $75 million of projects on that list. And they provided a $35 million one-time money, as well as reduced the match component for local governments from 40% to 20%. And so I think that's a great opportunity. And I'll talk a little bit about the sequencing of that as well. But the other component that was in the bill that is significant is that they told the department to go farther out in our normal planning horizon. So typically we create a STIP. You guys work on the TIP, we work on the STIP, for the full state. And we normally have a 4 or 5 year STIP process. And what they asked us to do is go out on a farther horizon. This is what they did the last time they issued bonds in 2017. So today we're programmed out into 2025 with TIF. They've asked us to go out farther than that. And so we're going to look and see, is it 2029, 2030, and to then for the commission to prioritize projects above and beyond those that are shown in the House Bill 433. So I believe, and again, this is going to be a very iterative process, but I believe that when we come out the back end of this, we could have between $4 and $5 billion worth of new roadway projects identified on top of the transit work, on top of the active transportation work. And so going back to that list of projects, and I'll use the term earmark projects, I hope that doesn't offend anyone that were identified in there. We will be sitting down with our region leadership next week and going through, because every one of these projects is going to still need to go through an environmental process, has to go through a design process, a procurement process. So we will start that work next week to try to figure out the path forward for each one of these projects. Because what we need to do is to think through, well, what is the appropriate scope? What is the dollar amount needed? And when can it be delivered? How fast can it be delivered? Because every one of these projects is going to have a different environmental process, procurement process, design process. And so then the department folks are going to stack those up and try to figure out that right timing. We're going to go to Transportation Commission in March. The commission will get a briefing on the program size and the list of projects. For, with the one-time money, we will not be prepared to say this project at this date at that time. And we will also show that, if we program out to 2029 or 2030, I don't know what the date is right now, we can go this far down your ranked list, Transportation Commission, because they've ranked the Transportation Investment Fund list. We can go down this far. And we'll put that in front of the commission in both the workshop and in the commission meeting, the Thursday and Friday, that's out there 2 weeks from now. What we will do that next month, we will be working that following month to try to detail out when we should actually be prepared to get to construction on each one of those projects, because that construction letting date is critical to know how much construction inflation we need to factor into each one of these projects. Because based on when you let those, we have to factor in how much we expect prices to grow over that period of time. So the April commission meeting, we anticipate going to the commission with specific dollar values for each project, as well as when we would anticipate having those prepared to go to construction. And put that in there, that becomes a program. And the commission can make any changes to that. Well, they can't change the earmark projects, but they can change the dollar values to the earmark projects, and they can definitely change the TIF projects. But then the idea would be that we would have a month for the public to be able to see it, for all of the organizations to see it, for people to poke at it, to give us comments, with, at the earliest point, having commission approval for all those roadway projects in the May commission meeting. That's off the top of my head what we're envisioning for a process. We could encounter all kinds of rocks along the road, and there might be some turns that might push it back. I don't see it going any faster than that. For the active transportation, like I said, there's this list, and this is what the legislators saw the list. They liked the list of projects, and that's what they put the 35 million to. And so the commission has a prioritization process for active transportation. We will run that through and rank those projects, and we will put those projects out for the public to see, probably no later than April. Then that gives time for the local governments to be able to see if there's a project they're interested in. Because again, we have to find, outside of our funds, we have to find 20% to match it. And so that process will take place over the next couple of months. I anticipate commission approval for those active transportation projects at the earliest in the August timeframe. Now, to make it even more complicated, we also have our ongoing Transportation Investment Fund active projects that we do every year, that call for projects. That call for projects is out now. And that process is, again, looking for the same types of projects, but looking for, the burden for local governments is it's got a 40% match. And so we think that people might be more interested in the 20% match than the 40% match. So we'll do that first. I anticipate that the ongoing TIF active, sorry to use all this term, would be selection in the September timeframe at earliest. So that can lag behind. You can make a decision. If you didn't get what you wanted on the first go, there's going to be that second one, basically a month lag behind it. So, Mr. Chairman, I know I probably talked too long, but I'll take any questions, or, Caroline is certainly more entertaining than I am on this.
Andrew, do you want me to go next, or do you want questions now, or hold off to the end?
You can go on, and
Okay.
and then we'll take any questions.
Great, thanks. I'm Carolyn Gonot. I'm Executive Director of Utah Transit Authority. Jeff Acerson is one of my bosses as a board trustee here, and I know he's representing all of you well to me, and I have a good relationship with him. Just want to follow up a little bit on what Carlos is saying. Really, this is sort of unprecedented this year in terms of the commitment that the state had to transit and putting transit into this infrastructure bill. You know, I'm a big fan of also when there's one-time money to put it into infrastructure as well. That is something that I believe in. It's great. It gets jobs, it gets people going, it helps support the economy and the economy's growth. So with transit this year, I just want to go over a few things that were in the bill and sort of where we came up with. I'm just going to go over the few projects that are specifically mentioned. Frontrunner is the very large one, and I really do want to thank the support of the governor, Senate President Adams, Speaker Wilson, Representative Schultz, who really worked closely with us, asking us, you know, how could we improve Frontrunner and what would we need? And I really do appreciate working with them over the last 6 months, like Carlos said, really since May, June timeframe, we've been talking to them. We received $100 million one-time funds, hopefully, if the bill signs, $200 million in the bonding from the TTIF. We also would see of the one-time funds also 1.6 million, and that's for the Vineyard Station, and that's a project that we're working cooperatively with the City of Vineyard and UDOT in building a new station at Vineyard, which will really support that economic development there. And we've got all the money but that 1.6, and we're pretty much ready to sign the contract any day now. So this is exciting to get that, if we can receive that money. The second area is really on additional money that's through the TTIF bonding. We also saw 12 million for the S line, which is an extension of the streetcar in Salt Lake City to Highland Drive, as well as 11 million for the Mid-Valley Bus Rapid Transit Corridor. And that is actually really key. That's one of the first east-west corridors we're building as a bus rapid transit, or true bus rapid transit, that will extend from Murray connecting to the Frontrunner station and our light rail, the red line, the blue line, over to continue over to Salt Lake Community College and through Taylorsville, and then up 27 to west into the West Valley station, connecting with the Green Line. And so that this really does go through a community that really does need that transit. We've seen a lot of ridership has grown even during the pandemic, people who need transportation throughout the day and a consistent, frequent source. So this is really key, and that $11 million will help support that project. We're taking that with the 22 that would go with the TTIF, and we're actually leveraging that pretty much $2 for every dollar that the state puts in. We're going to ask for $2 from the federal government. So that's a project that we're putting through their federal capital investment grant program. The other project is $5 million towards the Point of the Mountain environmental impact study. And that, combined with some of the monies we have, will allow us to do quite a bit of engineering toward the environmental. So we're really set to go after the big dollars, to work very closely with the Point of the Mountain Development Commission, Point of the Mountain State Land Authority, to really work with what is going to be happening at the prison site, as well as really support those efforts and the development that's happening in Lehigh and others, and that connection to Central Corridor, which is key, and how we use that railroad right away in the northern part of Utah County. And then we also are looking at, if everything goes well, another $4 million for Sharp Tintic, which is the first piece in trying to get an extension down to Payson. And this actually allows us to do some railroad consolidation. I really want to thank MAG for helping support that effort. And I was just out there the other day with Springville and Spanish Fork, looking at that connection in there. So that's really the first piece of being able to get Frontrunner further south. So I'm excited about that. I just really want to, say that the Frontrunner program, go back to that a little bit. We may get $300 million. This is a huge investment by the state. I think they recognize how important that is. It complements the I-15 corridor. It is something where we won't be able to build our way out with highway capacity forever in that corridor. I think the Frontrunner will continue to be a major player in the region to help support economic development. And what we're looking with this first $300 million, we will try to leverage it with some federal dollars as well. And that was discussed by Representative Schultz a few days ago. But one of the things that we will be looking at is really making those first investments in the system. We just finished the Future Frontrunner study towards the end of 2018, and that really focused on double tracking the entire system. And if you don't know, 70% or more of the Frontrunner system is single track, which definitely affects operations and our ability to run more service. So we're looking at what can we do in the short term, 5 to 10 years, and building strategic sections of double track that allow us to provide better reliability, faster trains, and more frequent service, maybe in the peak hours, maybe throughout, we don't know how much we could get throughout the day. This is something that we're doing right now. We have brought on sort of a consultant firm that is doing a lot of this rail operational analysis at a very different style. It's very dynamic, as well as bringing in, we're out right now. We'll get the proposals next week on someone coming in and really supporting us who have a lot of experience in commuter rail construction on existing commuter rail. And how do you build, what are those improvements that you need to make in the environment that we have today with the safety and the Federal Railroad Administration. So these are the keys. The other thing that we're doing is doing a business plan that actually UTA has funded that actually will define how do we get to that long-term vision of double tracking and electrification, or whatever mode we will be at in the future, or whatever kind of propulsion system we will be at. How do we get there over time? So there'll be a business plan. That's a lot of engagement. That's a lot of engagement with the cities. How is your land use growing? How do you want us to support in terms of the transportation investments we need? Those are the things we'll be working with each of the cities along that corridor line. But this is really key. The one thing I've also realized is that it's not just the cities that have the stations, it's also the cities that need to connect to those stations. So that's another area that we really will be working on with the business plan as well. So I'm really excited about this effort. I've really enjoyed UDOT as a partner in all of this. And I look forward to working with MAG, WFRC, and being able to deliver these projects. And Andrew, thanks for inviting me today.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Carolyn and Carlos for taking some time out of their busy schedules to talk to us a little bit about this. If I could just add a couple of things to what they've said. I think probably Carlos and I are the only ones that have been around from when we did the I-15 core project in Utah County, and how we had some Utah County legislators. They aren't in the legislature anymore, but at that time they were slow nose. So they waited until the funding was approved for I-15 in Utah County, and then they started voting no or didn't show up for the vote. And
Andrew, one of them actually was crying on the back of the House floor.
Yep, and another one was in the bathroom, locked himself in the bathroom. So, that was a painful thing. And I've talked for many years to our legislators about not being a slow no and to stand up for things. And both when this went through both the House and the Senate, there were no votes on this, which I think is probably unheard of, that we could get that group together like that. I've never been an elected official. I've friends with several legislators and friends with several of the mayors, and I see some of the texts that they get during the legislative session, and it's just appalling to how much abuse they get in some of the texts and emails that they get. And so I think it's really something for them to stand up and vote in favor of this when they had people calling for tax reductions or tax relief with this surplus of one-time funding. And so it was really a difficult thing, but they could see the importance of funding these projects. Like Carlos and Carolyn said, if you've got that one-time funding, put it there. So I think it's appropriate that we had some earmark or legislatively directed funding, because it's a little part of that, but it didn't touch that ongoing funding. So we could still go through all that ranking process and everything that we all agree to. And there's several projects that we have in MAG and across the state that'll be funded just all that normal process. But it's important also to let those who are elected by the people have some discretion in this one-time funding. And so that was really good, just to identify a few of these things. The Transportation Commission had approved that Spaceworks Springville interchange, but we still had a little bit of a connection there. So that got through on this. Some more improvements to 1600 North and Orem, Vineyard Connector, Payson Main Street deck repair, Saratoga Springs EIS on Foothill Boulevard, Geneva Road in front of the temple there. We also, out of another funding source, SB 2, I believe it is, There's $4.4 million for the Wakara Way Trail along Utah Lake, kind of in that Provo Airport area, as well as we talked about that Sharp Kinnick thing. And so there's some things that I often talk about, things that are important and things that are urgent. If you think of in your city or county, you have a water tank and you have to build a new water tank in the next 5 years. That's an important thing, and you got to save up for that and put that in your planning process. But then if you have like a street where a water line breaks in that street, it may only serve 5 people in your community. Community-wide, county-wide, that may not be a big issue, but it's an urgent need for those few houses. And so it's important that we have this opportunity to look at those long-term important projects through our prioritization process and the ongoing funding, and also to be identify some of these urgent things that maybe didn't. It's one of those things that you kind of have to be out there on site, boots on the ground, to get some of the urgency for that. So we appreciate the work that UDOT does and UTA does. I know as a staff person, it's hard to sometimes get some of those political pressures associated with it, but also it's also rewarding to get that and be able to really advance infrastructure. And Carlos knows what it's like across the US, and I think we're treated very well from our legislators who hold those purse strings in transportation. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
I was thinking Andrew was going to run for office.
No, not me. I've got a good name for it though, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. They're changing all the schools that are named after Andrew Jackson. And I'm not named after Andrew Jackson. Any questions anybody has? Otherwise, we can let Carolyn and Carlos go on to their rest of their nights, and I just got a couple other bills to talk about. And we'll move in that direction. So thank you again, Carlos and Carolyn. Thank you. So a couple of things, SB 02, Senate Bill 2, which is the appropriations bill. Again, that identifies the funding for the Wakara Way Trail, as well as several other things that the legislature has put forward. Another bill of note is House Bill 19, which changes the population requirements to become third, second, and first class counties. So you may be aware that previously the requirement for a first class county was 700,000 in population, and this got changed to 1 million. So we were bumping up really close to, my guess would be that once the census information came out, we would become a first class county. For many years, up until the last couple of years, the state attorney general had told the legislators when they passed bills that they couldn't specifically identify Salt Lake County in bills. Instead, the way that they want something for Salt Lake County or something for Utah County, they would have to say a county of the first class or a county of second class over 500,000 population or whatever. So there's a lot of things that's in state law right now that once you become a first class county, we would have to, I guess, change to be in compliance with state law. And so this HB 19 has changed that. And the minimum requirement is 1 million population to become a first class county. So we've got a little bit of time for that. HB 98 deals with some building inspections. So, you want to check with your building inspectors on HB 98 and see how that impacts them. There's an opportunity that people can hire their own building inspectors. SB 72 is a modification to the Open Meetings Act. We're still trying to dig and see if there's additional things that have changed with the Open Meetings Act, but one of the things that does change is that if you are in a closed meeting, the only vote you can take in a closed meeting is to end the closed meeting and go into an open meeting. So that's just a clarification on there. HB 82 is accessory dwelling units, which allows for accessory apartments or accessory dwelling units in single family residential zones, and put some restrictions on that. And then HB 63 deals with impact fees, and it just makes a slight adjustment in how you can fund the plan for or the preparation of your impact fee studies. So I don't know if anybody has any other ones that they're aware of through the league or UAC that you're watching. But that's just kind of, as I look through some of those that came up of interest. Well, I think I put everybody to sleep, which is, I'm able to do that very quickly with my grandkids. I can get them to sleep faster than anybody. So it's just a natural skill, can't be coached, that I have. So thank you, and back to you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll go back to item 3. Bob?
Thank you. Let me just get my screen shared here. Does everybody see that PowerPoint? So we have a tip amendment for today. This is on the UTA Vineyard front runner station that was mentioned a little bit earlier tonight. Some background information. So in 2018, the legislature awarded $4 million of the TIF, Transportation Investment Fund, to build the Vineyard Commuter Rail Station. If you see on this map, you can see I-15, and this is Vineyard Connector Road, which is kind of an extension of 8th North and Orem. This green section right here is about where that commuter rail station is going in. So in 2018, the legislature set aside that $4 million for that new station. Currently, also UTA is, they're following a federal mandate to implement positive train control, which prevents train collisions. In studying that and preparing for that, it was determined that they needed 2 miles of double tracking from the station northward in order to make that work. And so UTA set aside $10 million to do that section of the double tracking. Moving ahead, the design is now pretty much complete, and they have come to the conclusion that they need an additional 1.68 million. I believe this is what was mentioned before. They need an additional 1.68 million to complete the station itself. And then they also need an additional 6.7 or 6.94 million to complete the double tracking section of the project. UTA has committed to providing the additional funds needed. So that's an additional 8.62 million in total to complete both projects, or the combined project, if you will. So again, here's just kind of a summary of what we're talking about. There was the original 4 million for the station, plus another 1.68 million to complete it. There's the original 10 million for the double tracking, and the additional roughly 7 million to complete that. So the new project total is $22.62 million. All of it UTA funds or the state TIF. Just to be clear, MAG does not control any of these funds, select projects for it, or select what happens with these funds. But in order for these funds to be added to the project and for them to be added in the STIP, they need to be amended into the TIP, which you do control, and that is why we're here today. Just like any other TIP modification that UDOT or UTA may request of us. So with that, it's pretty basic, pretty cut and dry. I'm open to answer any questions that I can. Otherwise, there is a recommended motion. Any questions? Maybe Sean, if you want to check the chat for me and see if there's a question submitted there.
Nothing in the chat except for Mayor Fulmer's showing her appreciation for this project and all the other work associated with it.
So are you ready for a motion, Bob?
Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion on this. This is Mayor Johnson. I move that 8.62 million UTA funds be added to the Vineyard commuter rail station and double tracking project.
And this is
Mayor
Mayor Manos.
Westmoreland, I'll second.
We have a first from Mayor Johnson, a second from Mayor Westmoreland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the updates and reports. Federal Highway Administration, Kelly.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. I know we're running a little late. So the COVID relief bill final guidance is out. A few hours ago, Brigitte sent an email to Andrew giving him a link to attend a session for questions and answers from federal highways. They've received 70, 80 questions and answers already. So that link will get them into the web room so they can ask questions and get answers from headquarters to use those COVID relief funds. There's 500 seats, so you got to get in a little early because the whole country is going to be in on it. So I just wanted to make you aware that if you're going to get in on that meeting, you're going to have to be kind of early. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Evans, Utah Department of Transportation.
Carlos gave my report on steroids, so I have nothing to add unless Rob has to add anything. You've heard the report from us today.
Yeah, I'll just say, Jim, we're really excited to work with you guys in implementing these projects. And as soon as we get more details, we'll be in touch with you. And if you have anything that you want to add or any information you want to get to me, feel free to reach out. But we're really excited to get going on these projects.
Thanks, Rob.
Perfect. Okay, UTA, Trustee Acerson.
Well, I think you've heard it from the big guns already, so that's
Okay.
pretty exciting. And I'm excited that Commissioner Evans, Jim Evans, is going to be a part of that programming process. And I think it's just a good day for the state of Utah and Utah County, and for each of you as you represent your municipalities. It's been a across the board effort, and we'll continue to work to move forward everybody's initiative. And Central Corridor is still top, right up there, and Point of the Mountain is going to be a big part of moving that forward as well. So Mayor Johnson, we're excited for the future, what's going to be coming there as well. So we're happy to be a part of the team. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 6, other business. Our next scheduled meeting is April 1st. So we'll get links and things out for that. We'll adjourn this meeting to go to COG. We'll start that shortly. Thank you.
And we stay on the same Zoom link, right, for the COG?
Correct.
Great.
That's right.